Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again today. Today on Cult Movie Tuesdays, we are talking about the classic fantasy film Labyrinth, starring David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. So I hope you will stick around. We'll be talking about cast, production, critical response, my thoughts on the film, this edition, a whole bunch more. So be sure to stick around to the end to get my full thoughts on this film. And thank you to everybody who has subscribed recently and commented and liked, and I appreciate your support. Today we are talking about this one, and this is a big one. This is a fantasy musical from 1986, directed by the one and only Jim Henson, of course, creator of The Muppets and Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock and The Dark Crystal and so much other stuff. And this was his mid-80s big budget fantasy film. This is his follow-up. I think this was his Dark Crystal was 82. I don't know if there was a Muppet movie between Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, but this was kind of his next foray into fantasy after The Dark Crystal, which, for the record, is one of my all-time favorite movies. Probably one I should review, I would think. But for today, we're talking about Labyrinth. This film stars David Bowie, who, of course, was in The Hunger, as well as Twin Peaks' Fire Walk with Me and The Prestige, of course, as well as being a world-renowned pop rock singer, and rest in peace, David Bowie. This also stars the always lovely Jennifer Connelly, who was in Requiem for a Dream, Ang Lee's The Hulk, as well as career opportunities. This also stars Toby Froud, who worked in various capacities on films such as the 2005 remake of King Kong, The Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, as well as Guillermo del Toro's version of Pinocchio, which came out last year. This also has Brian Henson doing some puppetry and other things. He also did various work on the 1990 film The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as The Witches, and a whole bunch of Muppet movies. And that is, Brian Henson is Jim Henson's son, and Brian sort of took up the torch after his dad passed away in 1990. Rest in peace, Brian. Rest in peace, Jim Henson. So Brian kind of took over, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he did the Muppets Christmas Carol. That was the first Muppets movie after his dad died, and that's one of my favorite Muppet movies. But yeah, Jim was still at the helm here. This is 4 years before he passed away. A very sad day for me and for lots of people around the world, because Jim was a really beautiful human and made lots of really wonderful things, including this film. So the synopsis for this film is 16-year-old Sarah is given 13 hours to solve a labyrinth and rescue her baby brother Toby when her wish for him to be taken away is granted by the Goblin King Jareth, played by David Bowie. That's right. This film started as a collaboration between Jim Henson and Brian Froud, following their previous collaboration on The Dark Crystal in 1982. It was shot from April to September of 1985 on location in Upper Nyack, Piermont, and Haverstraw, New York, and also at Elstree Studios and West Wycombe Park in the United Kingdom. The film took 5 months to film and was a complicated shoot due to the various puppets and animatronic creatures involved. The budget for this film was $25 million, and it only made $34 million worldwide at the box office. So that's why I'm doing this for Cult Movie Tuesday, because this definitely became a cult favorite on home video. This movie was a big disappointment at the box office, surprisingly, considering the masterminds behind this, which is really crazy. I mean, I remember even reading at the time, and I was trying desperately to remember what magazine if it was Time magazine or Starlog magazine, but I mean, I remember reading about this before it came out. It's Jim Henson, it's got David Bowie, who not only acts but sings in the film, executive produced by George Lucas, creature designs by Brian Froud. I mean, like, Jennifer Connelly was fairly unknown at this point, but this was like all of these big, creative people. Bowie, Henson, Lucas, Froud, who did a lot. If you don't know Brian Froud, he did a lot of those fairy books. He designed pretty much the whole Dark Crystal world. He does a lot of fantasy characters and drawings and paintings and illustrations, and he's a brilliant, brilliant artist. So for this to be a box office disappointment was like kind of surprising, really, when you think about it. And especially now when you look back on the film, because this movie like is considered a fantasy classic. It's considered one of the great 80s films. It's considered a classic Jim Henson movie with amazing puppetry. David Bowie, who is now gone. I mean, you look back in his performance in this movie, it's just crazy when you think about it. George Lucas. So anyway, enough about this, but yeah, it was a bit of a box office disappointment. The film received a royal charity premiere at the London Film Festival on December 1st of 1986 with Charles Prince of Wales and Diana, Princess of Wales, in attendance. It was the last feature film that Jim Henson directed before he passed away. A success on home video and television broadcast, Labyrinth has gained a large cult following. Nina Darnthoff of the New York Times wrote that the plot of Labyrinth is, quote, is very similar to Outside Over There by Maurice Sendak, in which a 9-year-old Ida's baby sister is stolen by the goblins. This almost got the film into legal trouble, as the similarity caused Sendak's lawyers to advise Jim Henson to stop production on the film. However, the legal complaint was eventually settled, with an end credit being added that states, quote, Jim Henson acknowledges his debt to the works of Maurice Sendak, unquote. So, for those of you who don't know, he did the book Where the Wild Things Are, or whatever that book is. Maurice Sendak. So this movie is, Jim Henson took quite a bit from that book to create this story. Henson discussed the film's origins to say that he and Froud, quote, wanted to do a lighter weight picture with more of a sense of comedy, since Dark Crystal got kind of heavier than we had intended, unquote. At least 25 different treatments and scripts were drafted for Labyrinth between 1983 and 1985. The film's shooting script was actually only ready shortly before filming began. Auditions for the lead role of Sarah began in England in April of 1984. Helena Bonham Carter auditioned for the role, but was passed over in favor of an American actress. Monthly auditions were held in the US until January of 1985, such as Jane Krakowski, Yasmin Bleeth, Sarah Jessica Parker, Marissa Tomei, Laura Dern, and Ali Sheedy all auditioned for the role, with Jennifer Connelly finally getting the role. Jennifer Connelly won over Jim Henson in her audition, and he chose her for the role of Sarah. Jim Henson also considered Sting, Prince, Mick Jagger, and Michael Jackson for the role of Jareth before finally choosing David Bowie. So could you imagine some of those different combinations? Imagine like Laura Dern with Prince, or Ali Sheedy and Michael Jackson. I mean, there would have been a totally, totally different movie. But I think they went with the right ones, in my opinion. The soundtrack score was done by Trevor Jones, who also did the Dark Crystal soundtrack. David Bowie recorded and contributed 5 songs to the film as well. In January of 2016, screenwriter Nicole Perlman announced that she had been hired to write a script for a sequel. Yeah. In April of 2017, Fede Alvarez, who directed Don't Breathe as well as the 2013 Evil Dead film, signed on as director, as well as co-producer with Jay Bazoo. Henson's daughter, Lisa Henson, was named as producer. More recently, in October of 2018, Fede Alvarez confirmed that the script was complete. In April of 2020, however, Alvarez announced that he had stepped down as director. In May of 2020, Scott Derrickson, known for directing Doctor Strange, was announced as director. Maggie Levin joined him in writing the script for the movie. The Jim Henson Company's Brian Henson was set as the executive producer and confirmed Lisa Henson as producer. In February of 2021, Jennifer Connelly revealed that she, quote, had conversations, unquote, about being involved in the Labyrinth sequel, but was unsure about what is going to happen. So allegedly there is a sequel somewhere in the works. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I feel like this movie is just good on its own. Not to be one of those people, but, you know, some things are better left. Now, that said, The Dark Crystal, one of my favorite fantasy movies of all time. It did have the the Age of the Dark Crystal, whatever that TV series was, and I love that TV series. So maybe they'll do something and it'll be equally as good. I don't know, but that's the deal with this. This film generally received pretty good reviews upon its release. It currently holds a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. Though I did read some of the critics thought that the acting wasn't good, that they thought David Bowie was very wooden and that Jennifer Connelly just wasn't that great of an actor. I don't know what movie they were watching, but I thought they were both great in this film. My thoughts on this film, I love this film. This is definitely a 5 out of 5 for me, no question asked. This movie for me still holds up. I mean, if you love fantasy movies, if you love Jim Henson stuff, if you like The Dark Crystal, if you love David Bowie, if you love Jennifer Connelly, if you love like the Henson puppetry, the special effects, the story is just good. It's just a solid little fantasy film. A quest to find her little brother who's been kidnapped by a goblin king. The puppetry is out of this world. If you've seen it, you know there's a scene in there with these fiery puppet guys that's so good. The music's great. The David Bowie tracks are great. The Trevor Jones soundtrack is solid. I've always loved the Dark Crystal soundtrack, so this one to me is equally good. I think I probably like the Dark Crystal more, but I like that for different reasons. I like the darkness of it and the story and the puppetry and that there's really no humans in the movie. But this one is a great, great fantasy film. If you have kids, I don't know. I mean, I hope there's still some kids out there that like this kind of stuff. Just a good fantasy movie with great characters, great puppets. Then this is a great movie. This is a great family picture. It's got fart jokes in it. It's got scary characters. It's got this thing's got everything. It's got a scene that's like an Escher painting where they're going upstairs and going downstairs and they can't figure out where each other is. Like the camera work is just so good. Even the minor characters in this movie, like excuse me, like there's a little worm in there that's trying to send Jennifer Connelly in a wrong direction because he's kind of like bad, or there's the the mouth that holds the door knocker that talks. Like there's a scene where she falls down this shaft and there's all these hands holding her up and grabbing at her and she's falling through this shaft or whatever. And it was like really well done. So well done. So yeah, I can't praise this movie enough. I love this movie. This is an all-time favorite for me. I saw this in the theater as a 16-year-old teenager several times and loved it every time. And I still love this movie. No questions asked. This is one of my favorites. So this edition is a pretty bare bones DVD. It has Inside the Labyrinth, which is a fairly well-known making of documentary. But yeah, this is just a great movie. A classic 80s fantasy, a classic fantasy movie in general. I'd put this up there with like Wizard of Oz and the early Disney animated, Alice in Wonderland, those kind of movies. Like if you like that stuff, I guarantee you will love this movie. It's just so good. And I think there's a whole generation after me of kids that grew up with this on VHS and DVD that love this movie, if as much, if not more than I do. I talk to a lot of people that quote this movie or talk about this movie. I feel like this is a pretty well-loved movie. So Leonard Maltin from Entertainment Tonight says, I couldn't wish for a movie with more imagination or fun. That sums it up pretty well. This movie is rated PG in Canada. It has a runtime of 101 minutes. This DVD is widescreen. It's Region 1 DVD. It's color. Yeah. This is a pretty bare bones edition. I think this did just get a 35th year anniversary special edition. So I'll probably down the road look at getting a nicer edition of this with maybe some more features. But there's the old VHS artwork there. This is the cover here is a bit newer. It's got some of the characters there. Here's Hoggle, another great character in the movie. It says, where everything seems possible and nothing is what it seems. Jim Henson's Labyrinth. I could go on about this movie for days. There's so much in this movie, and I love this movie so much. So those are my thoughts on this film. Did you see Labyrinth? Did you love this movie? Did you not like this movie? If you didn't like this movie, why? Leave it in the comments below. Give me the thumbs up if you like this review. Again, I might revisit this movie and review it again and maybe do like a deeper dive on it because I feel like there's more I could say about it. But that's my recent rewatch and review for this film. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I do Cult Movie Tuesdays every Tuesday and a horror movie every Friday on my series Fright Friday. I also do thrifting haul videos of physical media, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. So be sure to go back and check out some of those other videos if you like that kind of stuff. Thank you for watching this video. And until next time, I will see you at the video store or at the thrift store or just out and about somewhere. Or maybe I'll see you in some weird fantasy world being chased by David Bowie in tight slacks. Who knows what'll happen, but until next time, take good care of yourselves. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.